Above and beyond borders.
Beyond borders.
It's Borderline
with Ireti Bakare-Yusuf.
Welcome back to Borderlines, the only show that takes you beyond borders. It's not news, but let me take you back. On January
99.3
27th, 2025, the world woke up to news that M23, a group that had been primarily dormant since 2012, which became more active in 2021, are taking control of Goma. Goma, the bustling city of Goma with 1 million Congolese residents in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Many, including the international community, have held Rwanda, that is, Paul Kagame, responsible for the escalation. But we'll get into that later. According to a report by the International Crisis Group, a group that sounds alarm or sounds alert to prevent war, Kigali, and I'm quoting here, has moved from communication strategy of denial to justification, with key political and military figures like James Kabarebe in October 2024 ascertain that Kivers were historic Rwandan lands unjustly taken from Rwandan hands by European colonial powers. My guest today is Dr. Kabemba. Doctor, welcome. How are you?
Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. My name is Ireti. Pleasure to have you on the show. That's where I'd like us to start from. Let's start from that historic base, the 1885 Berlin Conference, when the whole of Rwandan Kingdom was divided. You know, Germany did theirs, etc. Let's start from that. Can you take us back to that?
Oh, look, I think just as it happened to the entire continent, European powers met in 1885 to share, we should say that, the continent among themselves. And when it came to the DRC around the Great Lakes region, we had the Belgium, the British, the Germans, who had to share that part. So the Belgium took the DRC in its current borders. That was negotiated. You remember that the African borders are artificial borders.
Yes.
There isn't one border that is as a result of Africans sitting themselves and agreeing. So all our borders are artificial.
Indeed.
And so any border on the African continent can create problems. It depends for one community on the one side to start to claim something. So my sense is that I don't want to engage in the land reclaim that some Rwandese leaders are making, but suffice to say that I think for the transparency and the clarity of the message, I'm more inclined to limit myself to say all African borders are artificial borders.
Okay.
And the claim, and Germany took Rwanda, and Burundi, and Britain was in Uganda. So that was a Kenya, Britain. So that was a distribution that they gave each other at Berlin Conference. You'll understand that the issue of African borders in the currently emerged from the Berlin Conference. But you will know that we have had some new countries that have emerged since that time. is, for example, the South Sudan that has come up and so on. So we have secessions, and we've also had attempt for irredentism, where one state, one land wants to join another one, and so on. So that I think it's those conflict borders around borders are not just along the DRC and Rwanda, as it might emerge from the Rwanda side. But you find a number of border disputes across the continent. And I think there are mechanisms in place at the AU level where these things, and also at the international level, where these things can be resolved. And I don't think border that we did not create should become the cause of conflict between ourselves.
Okay.
I think it's something that can be discussed.
Okay,
Dialogue.
excellent. Thank you. The other guest we have two guests this afternoon, who's just joined us, is Kambale Musavuli. Kambale, how are you?
Oh, it's a very difficult question to ask now.
I know, but I must still ask how you are. I know you've been extremely busy. You're everywhere. You were even on our station just the other day.
Bonjour, Kambale.
Bonjour, Prof. Kambale. Sorry about that.
No.
She's greeting the prof.
Well, I understand bonjour and I understand ça va. So there you go. But I must ask, how are you? How are you really?
I'm happy to know that more people are getting to know the Congo. I am exhausted, I'm not gonna lie. I think for many Congolese, we've had very little sleep because we have colleagues and comrades in the city of Goma, right? And we know people back home. So naturally, you lose sleep when you have loved ones back home. So that has affected me. But I've found the resilience and strength to continue because I'm seeing more and more people actually speaking up, even from Nigeria. I'm here in Thames, taking some action.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, incidentally, on Borderlines, we've actually talked about Congo twice, exactly. Perhaps even 3 times. So,
more than 3 times, if I may even say, because I think you've had me, you've had Maurice.
Yes.
The story
and we've had Gampara, yes, as well. Absolutely. So, it for us, it's very, very, very important. And that's partly, part of why this show was created. I've just spoken to Doc about, the history. When you go back to the 1800s and stuff, and and Doc makes a good point that, look, the whole of Africa is artificial borders. They basically divided us into a piece of cake. You take a bit of this, you take a bit of that, etc., ever. I mean, literally ever in mankind. People talk about Hitler. I would argue that the ruler of Congo, name's gone out of my head now, was possibly much, 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 much worse, right? So as a Congolese, when, I just read a quote from a report by the International Crisis Commission. They give alerts. When you hear the senior members of Rwanda, Kagame's president, cabinet saying, look, this was our land. It was unjustly taken away from us in the first place. When they're referring to Congo, that east part. What does that? What comes to your head when you hear that?
It is not a justification in 2025 to speak about these borders from the perspective. I mean, Congo is a member state of the African Union. Rwanda also is a member state of the African Union. The discussion around borders is beyond the African Union Charter, right? The African Union Charter is clear that the borders that we have in terms of nation states should not be violated, right? The territorial integrity of nations should not be violated. But there is also another discussion, which is part of the African Union Charter, around self-determination, that African people have the power to decide to become a nation state, right? So that's why we see the situation in Western Sahara, that the African Union recognized Western Sahara as a member state of the the African Union. We see also what happened with South Sudan. The people of South Sudan had self-determination to create a new nation. But this is not what we are hearing here, right? We're not hearing Congolese in the Kivu province coming together and say, we want to become another country. That is not what is happening, right? What we are seeing is a state violating Congo's territorial integrity, creating a narrative, and the closer you follow it, you start pretty much removing the veil to the truth that there is an expansionist agenda, not of Rwandan citizens, by the way. That's why we also have to be clear, right? It's the elite in Rwanda, right? The elite in Rwanda and this elite has a history with Uganda as well, right? I don't think that people even know that Paul Kagame is a former soldier of the Ugandan military who was trained by the United States as a Ugandan citizen, right? When he came to be trained at Fort Leavenworth in the United States, he was a Ugandan citizen. And I was even looking at a picture this morning of Paul Kagame's wedding, right? Guess who was, I don't know how you call them in English, I'm forgetting the name.
You mean the guest?
Children.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, page boy. Page boy, bridesmaid, yeah.
So one of the kid was in the procession at the wedding is Museveni's son, Muhozi, right? And then you look back to what he has said 2 to 3 days ago, that he is happy of the taking over of Goma. I'm paraphrasing actually what he posted on social media, that we need to understand what is happening, right? There is a regional elite that are called a mafia network. I often call them criminals without borders, who committed crimes in Uganda, who committed crimes in Rwanda, and also committed crimes in the Congo, who are now held accountable, right? So if we see it from the perspective, we know that the claim of speaking about the Berlin Conference is not holding, because the people of the land of the Kivus are not discussing self-determination to create a new state.
Yeah.
It's an elite in Rwanda which has decided to violate Congo's territorial integrity, and in the process, looting Congo's resources.
Indeed. Doctor, let me come back to you. You know, so we come back to today, because obviously you've both dismissed how whatever happened in 1800s, it's past tense. We are where we are. The borders have been drawn, etc. However, one of the things that Kagame says is that, look, we are trying to protect our people on the border, right? Of course, critics will say to him, well, that has been done. You are stealing resources under the guise of protecting the Tutsis. Doctor, what do you have to say to that?
Look, my stance is that that is totally a wrong argument, because when you follow the history of the Congo, the Tutsi Banyamulenge have been recognized in the Congo. I think there has been part of the Congo history or times where there were some discussion whether to accept or not. But currently, and through the new constitutions, I think there isn't one ethnic group in the Congo that has been excluded or undermined in terms of recognition.
Are you sure about that? Because let me interrupt you. They will say, and one had to do much research to get prepared for this, that do you have Tutsis in the Congolese army, in the, I don't know, in the political space?
Let me, there is movement of people. Each war push people outside the borders. And it happens that during some of these wars, there are people who are moved out of their land, and there are also violence against civilians that happen And during a war like what is happening now, it's very difficult to control people's sentiment and discrimination, even among communities.
Mm-hmm.
The movement of people, if they are Tutsis who go, for example, to settle in Uganda or in Rwanda, does not necessarily means that those people are not have been chased from Congo. But there is a discussion in Congo which says that there is also a need to be very clear who is among the Tutsis, who is Congolese, who is not. But I think that is more a problem of internal Congo problems, because in Congo there aren't identification documents. So even you today, you can just jump in and become Congolese,
right?
Because it's a problem. It's a problem of the state in Congo. And I think my argument through all this work has been that for us to resolve all these issues, we need to fix the state, and the state needs to be able to identify Congolese and provide them with official documents. We would have resolved that problem. And right now, anybody can suddenly claim and come in and become Congolese. And that is the problem that exists there. And that's, for me, it's a problem that lies within the state capacity to be able to control, provide documentation to identify, have census, and be able to count its people. That's why we are not even able to provide services to people, because we have not been able to know where they are, who are they, what. So I'm not very sure that there is a problem of people being excluded.
Okay.
There is a problem of movement of people. There are problem of refugees. There's a problem of refugees coming back. But I don't think there is a problem of people who are being excluded. So I think that's a dimension that we need to be careful when we say. Maybe I don't know where the issue of people being excluded, because when you look at the elections that we've had since 2006, the group, the Banyamulenge, has been part of the process. They've been part of government. In fact, they have been quite very senior in most of this government. So the argument that they've been excluded, and the Constitution does not even refer to that exclusion. So I don't know really the essence and the substance of that argument.
Okay, thank you. Kambale, when you look at the East, which is Eastern Congo, that's where the majority of the problem is happening. Of course, that's where all the rich mineral resources, etc. When we had Maurice here, Maurice talked about Apple being taken. There was a court case in the United States where Apple was being taken to court, but I think they lost the court case. Talk to us about the actions, the involvements of the Western countries, Western interference in that space with regards to, if you like, strengthening what's happening with Rwanda.
Specifically for the current situation, the direct involvement of Western nation is the military support to the Rwandan regime. That is what is affecting us today. I'm referring to the UN Group of Experts report. I'll just look at the December 2024 report that the UN Group of Experts released. It's 160-page, most of them, these pages being actually annexed, showing the evidence they're presenting. When you are seeing the M23 in the bush, in the Kivus, with a SHORAD system, for those who know what a SHORAD system is, you don't buy it in a store, right? And you don't order it online. This is sophisticated weaponry. You're seeing the M23 using, according to African intelligence this week, that the taking over of Goma was done with the support of assault drone. How did the M23 get assault drones? You have Elbit systems mortars being used. You have night vision goggle. You have all these sophisticated weapons, and when you start tracking down where these weapons come from, French intelligence shared the information with the UN group of experts that the same vehicle, a surface-to-air missile, actually used to... Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I'm listening to you.
Okay.
Absolutely. Surface-to-air missiles, yes.
Yes, so surface-to-air missile actually used to shoot down a UN reconnaissance drone has matriculation of a same vehicle that is in the Rwandan stock. And they know it because they're the one who gave them this stock, right? So when you start looking at all these details and why these Western nations are embarrassed, saying that the evidence is credible, is because they are the ones providing the weaponry to the Rwandan regime, right? And the European Union last year gave Rwanda 20 million euros worth of military aid, supposedly for Rwanda's mission, peacekeeping mission in Mozambique. And we're finding out that the military support that Rwanda is receiving, the weapons they're receiving, is going there. So for specifically this case, when we're talking about the M23 right now, beyond going in the details of the multinationals in the past documented, for the taking over of Goma, the current situation, the fact that the Rwanda Defense Force is supporting the M23's operation, and the Rwanda Defense Force is funded by Western government, the United States, the United Kingdom, France, the European Union. They provide this military support. They are complicit in the crimes, the war crimes and the crimes against humanity taking place on the ground. And that has been the appeal of the UN group of experts when they bring the evidence to the Security Council that your ally on the African continent is using what you're giving him to support rebel groups in the Congo committing crimes. But how can that end? So there are two ways, right? It's not, these governments are not going to move because they want to. We have seen a genocide live in Gaza. And the only reason why Western nations move is because ordinary people mobilize. The same is true with the Congo. Because Donald Trump yesterday was asked a question on the Congo in a press conference, right? A journalist asked him straight on, like, there is a situation in the Congo. In the future, what do you envision for peace and stability in Congo? His response made me think that he didn't even know what is happening in the Congo.
Of course he didn't know. Of course he didn't know. Look, let you bring me to a good juncture, because one of the questions that I have is organizing. And I'm glad you mentioned the Palestinians. Having covered the genocide extensively, the one thing that I constantly say to people is, I have never, and I'm in my mid-50s, never seen a group as organized as the Palestinians. When I say organized, as in to stand up and ensure and to bring the world into their resistance, into their struggle, to engage and co-opt and enlist everybody to be part of it. I'm beginning to see more of that in Congo. With regards to Congo, you know, you have the likes of Chakabars, who has been speaking about it forever. But it isn't enough, right? How do we actually do that? What is happening? What are the Congolese doing? Because my sister even wrote and said, you know, we need to do more, Ireti, because the first thing she asked me is, are you covering Congo? And I said, well, of course we are, you know, but, you know, what more? How can we do more? Not just as Congolese, and I say we because we're all the same, but as Africans, as the black diaspora. Where does that organizing come from? Because no, Donald Trump doesn't have probably doesn't even know there's a country called Congo.
So if the question is directed to me,
yes, it is, and then I'll come to Doctor.
Yeah. So for Palestine, since 1948, the Palestinians have been fighting, and it's been a long road to justice, and we're getting closer and closer. And thanks to South Africa, we have legal documentation that there is genocide taking place there. And it took a lot of efforts from a lot of people around the world. And I hope that our struggle in the Congo will not take this long, right? That there is movement now as you relate to that. The second thing that helped the Palestinians is that they understood very soon that they needed to translate what is happening in Palestine from Arabic to English to make sure that the English world get to understand what is happening to them. Many times, right, I've met many Congolese. They have great articulation of the situation in the Congo. But those who have the great articulation usually speak French.
That's right.
There is a lot of documentation
the language barrier
on the Congo.
Yeah.
In French, that it will be hard to have the different Congolese scholars and others coming into English world. But we're seeing that more and more, right? That Congolese are getting into Anglophone space to also speak. Last, with the improvement of information that is happening, it's really an appeal. That's why earlier I mentioned Thames. It was really a shock to me to see that. Why? Because next month, in February, John Legend is going to Kigali, right? He has not canceled his concert yet. But before John Legend, you had Kendrick Lamar who went to Rwanda. You had Dave Chappelle who went to Rwanda. You had Lauryn Hill who went to Rwanda. All these artists, all these high-profile Hollywood actors, government officials who go to Rwanda, we always have campaign around them. I mean, there is even a campaign right now about the Visit Rwanda on Arsenal uniform, right? There are these European teams, the Premier League and others, who will have on their jersey, Visit Rwanda. Paris Saint-Germain, PSG in France, also have Visit Rwanda. So when people see it, even on TV, you're watching football and you see that, and you see Paul Kagame coming into your country presented in a positive light. A week ago, Erdogan of Turkey was with Paul Kagame saying that the economic battle of Rwanda is what to follow. I got scared. You know what that means? They are asking African leaders to invade other African countries, steal their resources to have wealth to develop their own country. That's not the economic model to use. That I believe now, the more people get engaged, they should actually know what they should do in their country.
Indeed.
And the ask is very simple for me, right? Is wherever you are on the African continent or in the diaspora, get your government to side with the Congolese and demand that the negative forces against the Congo stop what they're doing. So if Paul Kagame goes to Trinidad, the prime minister there is not parodying Paul Kagame as an exemplary leader, because the people of Trinidad and Tobago, they know clearly that this guy is a killer.
Yeah.
So continuing to educate people about what is happening so that governments of your countries are taking a clear position to bring about peace and stability in the DRC.
Thank you very much. Doctor, let me come to you. As Kambale said, Paul Kagame, he has been lauded, been platformed, been paraded as the Prince of Africa. But I read a quote today by a young journalist, a young talented Nigerian journalist, Adesua Giwosage, and she said, Rwanda is the Israel of Africa. I thought it was a very powerful quote, and it stuck with me, that comparison. Is the cloak about to unveil the real Paul Kagame?
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Let me just, I think the point around mobilization to really put the Congolese issue on the map is an important one. And I just want to make some quick points.
Go ahead.
Before, I think there is need first in Congo itself. When you look at the Palestinian, they project a nation. They are very united on their cause, all of them. That grassroots support is important. And I think for Congo, we need to build that as a social cohesion and believing in one and projecting this same issue and speaking with one voice and articulate the narrative must be clear from all of us, what we want and how we want to conduct it. It's only when Congolese are able to do that, that other people will join the fight and other people will support the fight. My sense is that we need to really do a lot of work, grassroots work in the Congo, to mobilize Congo, but mobilize in a positive way of defending the Congo nation. And that we are at least a little bit far away. But you have to remember that Congolese has been fighting since 1885.
Yeah.
They fought colonizers. It has not been easy for colonizers to even when they cut their hands to go in the rubber plantation, they always fought for that. And independence was brutal, given quickly. It was after a long, very serious fight and so on. So that has been there. But I think we need more. Diplomacy. I think we need to upgrade our diplomacy. And my sense is that where other countries are better than us is around diplomacy. How do we go to other people and how do we build bridges? How do we create
alliances?
Trade relations?
Yeah.
Alliances. I think we have been quite weak and we need to look. Congo is one of the richest. Is the richest country on planet when you take everything together.
It's the heart of Africa. Yeah.
Everyone should be coming to us. And everyone should be going to Congo. Everyone should be rushing to ally with Congo. Why do people are getting, you found the president of the most powerful state saying we can't discuss this issue? Here, when we are talking about an issue of a country that is a solution to climate change, when you are talking about a country that we need stability for us to resolve a lot of things.
The country that enables technology as we know it today.
Exactly. We should, all of us, including all Africans, to say we need stability for this country. It cannot be negotiated. I think when people meet at the AU, they meet at the SADC, they meet at the ECOWAS, they meet in East Africa, I think we need Congo to stabilize the African continent.
Okay.
Geographically, is standing at a very important strategic space, including in traffic and aviation, including in maritime traffic, resources. We've got droughts. Congo has got 52% of all really clean water. The next war is going to be the war on water. And Congo will become again another problem. So I think we need to have that in mind. My sense, I don't want to get into the issue of the statement that that Rwanda is the Israel of Africa. It's an extrapolation of what people think, because you see, Israel protects Jews everywhere where they are. And it seems in President Kagame's expression is that he becomes the guardian of all Tutsis wherever they are, and including the Tutsis in the Congo when they have a problem with their own state. So he will have to intervene. I don't know if that is correct, but I'm interpreting the statement.
I think that was meant more like Israel is protected by the Western hegemonies.
Kambale made that articulation very correctly, giving the figures of support.
Yeah.
But we need to ask a question, and that's where I think the diplomacy and the voice of our Congolese must come out very strongly. Why would people go? The EU signed an agreement with Rwanda for critical minerals, to get critical minerals for EV batteries. When we know that Rwanda does not have whatever enough to even satisfy that agreement, we need to have a diplomacy that works. And my sense is that there is a lot of work that Congolese needs to do, and that work needs to start now.
Indeed,
because people out there, this world is about interest. If the EU, we can say whatever we want. If the EU fund that, hey, that's where we get they'll go. It's about, there is a lot of competition to access these critical minerals. If they find a place where they can get them easily, even with the devil, they are ready to go that. And we need to prevent that.
Indeed.
So our diplomacy, I think, needs to be, and grassroots mobilization, really academics, wherever they are. I think we need to be more aggressive on how we present Congo, how we articulate the issues, and how we build alliances.
Indeed.
My sense is that Rwanda has been able to build alliances, and that should not be in the disfavor of Congo. My sense is that there is a lot of, if we want the African continent to support Congo, Congo needs to say and articulate how that support should come.
Thank you. That's a good place.
And to do that.
That's a good place for me to move to my next guest, Kambale. So you've heard Doctor, I have no doubt that you agree with him. One of the things you also said, I think that's where you were going, is that, look, everybody is romancing Kagame, right? Is the prince of the West. Everybody goes there. And even in Nigeria, look, good development, clean, everything. People in Nigeria go there. Elites in Nigeria go to Rwanda and they're in awe. They applaud. Partly because we are a nation and, if you like, a continent that hasn't been used to good governance, right? So we clap. That's what I actually posted on Twitter. So we applaud any cheap brass, any shiny brass that we see. But Doctor makes a good point. Let's talk about diplomacy and alliance, right? You have a very weak president, Tshisekedi of Congo. What is he doing to actually form those alliances? What is he doing to go to the EU and say to the EU, look, this contract you signed, these minerals are mine, right? Why are you signing it with Rwanda? Since when is Rwanda part of Congo? What's Tshisekedi doing?
You are putting me in a difficult position of becoming the spokesperson of the government.
No.
Because
it wasn't intentional, but I know that you're straight speaking, so please speak.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that the regime of Tshisekedi lacks the credibility to solve this problem because it does not have the trust of the people, right? We have a challenge since the 2018 election because of the aftermath of the election. There is not a united front in support of the government. And that's on one aspect. And from even the discussion that we are having, I think the part that we are not really talking about is the capitalist system when we are talking about the we and the interest, right? A nation state will have an interest, like the United States. Right?
Yeah.
The United States does not have friend, but it has interest. But the American people, their interest very often are in contrast to the interest of the United States government. And we see that with what's happening in Palestine, right? That the American people are saying, we do not want our taxpayers' money to go support Israel. But the government will do that. So if we have the framework in understanding the class struggle that we have even in DRC, then we'll be able to lift up the voices of the people to know where we should support. Because the Congolese people are trapped in, when I was a friend in the Congo, we'll try to explain it, like the challenge of the Congo, is that there are forces against the Congolese people. One of the first forces that's making it hard for Congolese to determine their affairs is the Congolese elite. Our members of parliament are paid $20,000 a month as a salary, right? This is a fact that is known in the Congo. And you start thinking about that. None of them are saying that we want to receive our salary this month. When soldiers are paid $100 to less than $100 a month, and they are being asked to go there in the front line. So the first challenge that the Congolese people have is the Congolese elite. The second one are neighboring countries, right? Rwanda and Uganda, who have invaded the Congo twice and continue to support proxy rebel militia. The third one are multinational corporations who, in the context of chaos, they come and make odious deals. getting contract where Congo get 10%. We've had the different mining review that showed all the odious contracts that existed from the mining institution. Then you go to the fourth force against the Congolese people is the multilateral institution. Now I'm speaking about the United Nations, right? It's particularly the United Nations Security Council, where when actions need to be taken by the Security Council to bring about peace, you will have a veto of the United States. You will have a veto of France or others. And I'm speaking in general. So if you start looking at these forces, we are saying Congolese are in the struggle to free themselves. Then the question is, what is your government doing? The Congolese are fighting the government. I saw an interview yesterday, very powerful. A Congolese who was in front of the US Embassy. Congolese protested in front of foreign embassies, burned some, and so on. But this gentleman said to the journalist interviewing him, said, I'm wondering why the Rwandan embassy was still open up until today. If for the past 2 years, the Congolese government is saying that Rwanda is invading the Congo, Rwanda is supporting rebel groups, but you still had the embassy open.
Indeed.
That he said that the government is the guilty one, right? So the Congolese have that struggle. That's not a people to support us will not be able to solve that for us. We will fight on that.
Of course.
But the external forces, that's where people can support.
Of course. Yes, you can call 0201-277-0993, 0201-465-7190. You can continue to send your messages to 0809-597-5805. Let's talk about going forward, because honestly, I don't want you guys to go, but I've got like 50 minutes left. I really want to have... Let me tell you, if I could, I would do this topic every single week. Forget it. I would do it every day, twice on Sundays, as they say, if I could. Honestly, it's very passionate to me. Let's talk about going forward. So, South Africa, Ramaphosa has, blamed Rwanda for the loss. I can see you're smiling, for the loss of South African soldiers, and basically Paul Kagame has said, look, you want war, bring it on, right? So they're basically what we call flexing in Nigeria. Should we be taking them seriously? Or do you think that the president of Kenya, William Ruto, is actually going to be able to calm things down? And did that meeting happen yesterday? It was supposed to be, 2 days ago, the 29th. Let me ask you, I'm going to give you 1 minute to answer. I'll give Doctor 1 minute to answer because they've started calling.
My sense about South Africa, Malawi, and Tanzania went into Congo under the auspices of SADC. They did not go in by themselves. And already the fact that there is that tension between South Africa and Rwanda, it puts SADC in a very difficult position. The same, you remember President Tshisekedi asked the peacekeeping force from East Africa to get out of Congo because he thought they were not doing what he thought they were going to do, to fight M23, the rebels. So already there's no trust. And Congo has almost pulled out from the East African community and does not attend the meeting. So again, for me, I think the East African community has also cannot play an important role. So my sense, there was a meeting, yes, I followed President Kagame yesterday in the meeting, what he says, really pushing for support from the East African community about what is happening. And he's saying, I'm not seeing why we are here because we are not doing what we should be doing. It's about supporting each other. Nothing have transpired of what happened at SADC today. It was really about the Congo. My sense is that we should not read much in the tension between President Kagame and Ramaphosa. I think these are two different countries at a very different levels, and I think it's it was more about emotions. And as leaders, my sense is that they have to temper those emotions. People are dying. The continent is going backward instead of advancing. There was a time in the history, a decade ago or two, we were talking about the reawakening of the African continent.
Yeah.
But with these wars, we are going back. We don't need that. I think.
Okay. I'm gonna. I was just about to answer that call. You can call back. I will answer your calls. Yes. If you could just wrap up, Doctor.
I just wanted to say one important issue, really, what Kambale has raised around the Congolese elites and so on. I think that's a bigger problem we need to solve.
Okay.
You see, Congo is so resource. The east of the country is so rich.
If I may interrupt you, sir, I was just about to answer that call. Then they keep dropping. You can call back. I will come to your calls because I know you all have questions. Okay, there you are. Hello.
Yeah. Chief Ambassador, good evening, man.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, I hear him saying how important the Congo Republic is to African continent, right?
Mm-hmm.
How come the rest of Africa, like you just mentioned our elite here, who go there and romance with that Paul Kagame, oh, Rwanda is this, Rwanda is that. How come they allow that Rwanda man to do this to the Congolese? What are they waiting for? ECOWAS, every one of them, what are they waiting for?
Okay, thank you. So you heard that. Why is the rest of Africa romancing with Kagame? Let me answer another call. Hello?
Good evening, SCOP.
Good evening, Emmanuel. One question. Yes.
I think the condition where Congo is now, it's not, I mean, things won't be left, to the president alone. The government, the power, the opposition, the elite, the religious leaders. Why is it that they can't come to a consensus, of employing services of other African countries in protecting their interests and then promising them in return for something? Because
who is the them? You're saying them. We don't understand.
Yeah, I'm talking about the government and then the
government of Congo. Yes, to do what?
Because a Ghana in Nigeria won't go there, for a Christmas purpose. They need to get something in return. This thing is just like a negotiation.
Okay.
Help us settle the crisis. When we get our minerals.
Okay.
Give this to you and you take this and then we benefit.
Thank you. Basically, what Emmanuel is saying is, look, why can't they negotiate? You've got minerals. You've got something to negotiate with. Turn off your radio, please. Your name, where you're calling from, and your question very quickly. Turn off your radio, rather. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, there was a time I had that if they will create an Israel where there was no Israel in Palestine, the Western countries will create an artificial Israel there, whether they like it or not.
Yes, it was Biden that said that. Yes, go on, quickly.
Okay. Now, are they creating another Israel in Africa? That's my question. Okay. Rwanda is like an Israel in Africa now.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And the last one before I come to you guys. Hello?
Hello? Yes, good evening.
Good evening. Your name and where you're calling from, and one question.
Joyce.
Hello, Joyce. Yes, go ahead.
So my question is, what is happening in Congo and also in other parts of African country? Is not the same thing happening in Nigeria, where a particular region, like the Biafra, I think they want to get a decision, and nobody is talking about it. In fact, when you discuss about it in the mainstream, it's as if you're saying a taboo. And one day, this is going to snowball to something else. So why are they not allowing these people speak?
Well, it's not going to, actually, this is where I've got to correct you. No, that is not the case, because we are one Nigeria. What is happening with Rwanda? Rwanda is a separate country.
We are one Nigeria.
No, but we are. I'm sorry. This is the thing. You can't use. It's a false comparison. Whilst I understand what happened in Biafra War, we do have one Nigeria. Unless we are no longer one Nigeria, then we can have this discussion. So basically, Rwanda is a sovereign entity which has incursed into another sovereign country. Am I wrong, Kambale?
Yeah.
Because your names are so similar. Go ahead, doctor, very quickly. Because
I think what people African are condemning is the military intervention of Rwanda in another country that is prohibited by the AU. So that is really violating a country's sovereignty. The fact that now it's clearly demonstrated that Rwandese soldiers entered Congo. That is problematic.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really frightened everyone.
Okay.
That now very
because of time, I need to go to Kambale. Yeah, very quickly. If you just wrap up for me, Doc.
Issue of minerals. I just want to say, if you've got the Congo's got a lot of minerals, without a state that controls them, it's anybody can go and extract them.
Okay. That's
why we need to build that state capacity to put under its control those minerals.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me just, because we're literally running out of time. Yeah. Kambale, come in, please.
There is so much to share. I agree with Dr. Kabemba with what he pointed out. But the element I continue to add is I think the angle is taking things that Congolese people should do. I don't think someone in Nigeria will be able to solve our internal challenges.
Absolutely.
That's something that we should do. But in Nigeria and across the African continent and diaspora, in order for Congolese to be able to determine their own affairs, they need space for that. And that space cannot happen if every time you wake up, there is someone with a gun on your head, right? That's how I look at the external intervention. I think that we should dispel that myth of what Rwanda is, because it's being exported in West Africa, right? I know for a fact that the Rwandan intelligence is providing services to the government of Benin. The Circle of Talon is actually Rwandan intelligence doing that and his bodyguards. And I remember when Paul Kagame was there, I was very happy to see journalists in Benin asking him questions about the Congo, where he starts speaking about the Berlin Conference. I'm seeing the same too happening now also with the Alliance of Sahel States, right? Burkina Faso has ties now with the security in Rwanda and so on. So what needs to happen is that we need to popularize the information of what is happening in the Congo so that whenever they come to our countries, we can put that right pressure. By putting pressure on the negative forces against the Congo, particularly Rwanda and Uganda, it gives the Congolese the space, the chance to determine their affairs. So that's where, that's the addition I would like to make on what Dr. Kabemba has said. But it would be really sad for me to end the interview and not sharing the human story of what's happening.
Please do. That was my next question, but go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, and they want me to share with the world that they have not had water, they have not had electricity, they have not had food for the past week. And people are in dire situation. Even today, got a call from someone saying, I don't even know if I should come out. I'm hearing that we can now come out, but I'm still hearing gunshots in my neighborhood because there are still people fighting, even though it's smaller, right? People are still fighting inside of Goma, but the city of Goma is fully controlled. That they are wondering if they are alone. There is a feeling that they do not belong to the African continent because they're not hearing a lot of voice of solidarity. So what we are doing in our corners with colleagues, we're sharing statement of solidarity that people are actually writing. So that's a direct call. You may not put pressure on the government of your country. You may not have resources to send because people need resources as well. But you can put out statement of solidarity, just as Thames has done. So the Congolese who are looking for, are we Africans, are we humans, that they know people still care about them and that will give them the strength to fight for their country so that they feel part of an African family, a human family. And it's been very tough for the people of Goma, and I hope people listening will take some action.
Absolutely. And this, you've got to be able to tell us how to take action. And I'll talk to you after this because I'll post it on my Instagram. In actual fact, I'd love for you and Doc for us to even have an Instagram live so we have more time to really, really educate people. Albeit I only have 11,000 followers, but hey, we'll make do with whatever we've got. We've got to go now. I will say this though, I know that a large majority of Nigerians stand with Congo. We stand with you, we think about you, we pray for you, and we know that without a doubt, you will win. As we say, you will overcome. The one thing that the colonialists tried to do was not just to divide us with borders, but with language. Somehow, I'm able to say bonjour. We'll be able to have this conversation as often as possible. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you. Kambale Doc, I'll be in touch. We'll talk about the Instagram Live. All right?
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
More talk, more right after this.
In the cooking game, you need a winning game plan. I'm not just talking about your fresh ingredients, utensils, or cooking skills. I'm talking about your choice of seasoning. Your game plan is incomplete without Maggi chicken flavor. Made with a flavorful formation of onions, celery, turmeric, it's the game changer. Elevate the taste of your everyday dishes with delicious rich chicken flavor. Oh yeah, let's go.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.